right. So let's talk about show structure. Like, how do you structure your show? Because you have a lot of guests. Do all of them have guests?
Yes.
All right. So how do you structure your show? How do you go about structuring your show with guests?
So it's kind of my own madness type of thing.
I hear that. Trust me.
Yeah. And this is, you know how it is. I mean, the problem is you don't know what's going to happen, and you don't. So there's a few schools of thought. There's one where you keep it short. You let some really good things happen. You kind of let the guests express themselves a lot.
Yep.
And then they probably have like another 50% to go, and then you cut it short. I know people that do that. I understand why they do that, you know, because then they will maybe want to listen to the next episode with that guest. Then there's the thing of like Tim Ferriss style. He does 2 hours, then he cuts it up. If he needs to, he cuts it up. And he lets the guest take out any portions that they want to take out. And so he'll take a 2 hour and make it an hour and 20 or an hour and 50, or he won't edit it at all. He'll edit it if he needs to, right? And then there's the full Joe Rogan style, click record, click live, and just go. And so I really have more probably Joe Rogan style than anything. Yep. But the way I look at it is like, I have like maybe this much notes, like maybe a few lines for a person. If I don't know them, I need way less, to be honest, which you would think is the other way around. But if I don't know them, I'm pretty good at, you know, exploring the topics and making that into an hour and 2 hours. But the way I look at it now is like, I have two different ways. I'll sit down and let them go through their background first and take it from there and let the conversation go. I don't have questions prepared. Or I'll let them tell a story. Then we'll start to get into the episode from the story. So I've tried those two. The story one works way better for remote because it's just that you don't have the in-person of like talking beforehand and creating an experience. But yeah, I mean, I don't have a interview structure. I just try to ask really good questions and try not to talk that much so I don't bore people. I try to get the most out of people. I mean, I don't know how to explain that, because I just kind of, I guess, have my own way of doing it. I try to ask great questions. Like that's my number one goal, is ask questions that people have not been asked before. And when people get off the interview, they say, that's my best interview I've done. Like that's my goals. So structure, it's neither here nor there for me. It's really just like part of the process.
My basic is like, okay, just give me as much info about yourself as you can. Like obviously podcast is important. I listen to the podcast, get an idea of who you are as a host, et cetera, et cetera. Website. Okay, what does this person do? Who are they? Right. And it's just pretty much just, and I just go from there. You know, I write up a little intro. Most of I just pull it from your website. You know, like just general questions. Always start off with who are you? What do you do? Like with you in particular, it's like, okay, we're both in the podcast industry. We can talk a lot about the industry as a whole. And of course, the point of the podcast is to talk about your actual podcast, the BopCast. So it's pretty easy from there. Like next, I'm going to ask a lot about your guests. But in terms of structure, like I like to keep it open where if we go off into a tangent, you know, ride the wave. I like letting the guest talk as much as possible because, you know, I'm trying to learn about them. But at the same time, people out there might listen like my shenanigans, like what I have to say. So I like to give my personal anecdotes as well, which is exactly what I'm doing right now. So then I'll pivot. How do you actually come up with your questions? Like it's obviously that you don't want to focus on something someone has been asked before. That's a great goal to have. And it's never a question I think it's going to be that someone goes, I've never been asked that before. So like, how do you go about forming questions? What goes through your mind?
Yeah, I think I have an easy job a lot of the times because I'm interviewing people who have never been interviewed before. So it's not like they've told the story 400 times. Like with me on a podcast, it's like I've told my story so many times on podcasts, like 30, 40 times. Yeah. I kind of got it down now. So I've also been asked a lot of questions. So when I get a question that nobody's asked me before, it's actually a good question because there's been so many before it. But with a lot of my guests, they haven't been interviewed before. They've been on stage. They might have performed 400 times, but they might have only been interviewed once or never before. And a lot of the podcast experiences they have weren't that good. Yeah. So I'm coming into this, like, as long as I don't mess up too bad, even if I didn't prepare at all, it'll be a good interview. And I know that's, you know, might sound arrogant or something, but I mean, to create great questions, I mean, a lot of them just come up in my head. Like they just pop up in my head. Like I just make sure the answer to how to get great questions is, are you mentally healthy right now? Are you physically healthy right now? Are you in shape? Have you been eating okay? Are you taking vitamins? That's how I come up with good questions. my brain will create the questions as I'm going, but that's happened to me. I'll record these at 8:00 at night. It's like I'm brain dead.
Yeah.
I already did through my whole day and worked out. It's like I can't barely come up with the next thing, you know? So I think for me, it's creating the environment. I don't know what it is for other people, though. Like, I couldn't give you I could kind of give you a framework for asking questions. I mean, there's just great questions that you can ask people that they haven't been asked before. And I've gotten them from other podcasters. You know, what's the worst piece of advice you've ever gotten, and why is it the worst piece of advice? You know, instead of asking for the best piece of advice, those type of flip-flops I love, you know, but so there's ways that you can ask great questions just by learning from people who ask great questions. But yeah, I mean, I guess to answer that, it's a combination of things for me.
It definitely helps, like, if you have good energy. Like, I get told all the time, people love my energy on a podcast, and I don't know where it comes from. I
can't fake it, right?
No,
can't fake
it's like I can't fake it. It's just like once, like I tell a story a lot on podcasts too. Like, you know, I hosted college radio in school, and you know, it was Sunday morning, 10:00, and the greatest compliment I ever got was like, "Will, I can't believe your energy in my morning coffee. Like, you're just like my morning coffee." And I was like, "Wow, thank you," because I woke up hungover and exhausted. As soon as that mic's hot, "Good morning, New York," like, you know, I just hop right into it. So like, part of being a good interviewer is also just being true to yourself, and it's just like, I don't know how to turn this off. I don't know how to turn off this energy. Dude. But as soon as we hang up this phone, I'm gonna go, like, right?
And I got another call and say at 6:30. So it's like, I feel you, dude. It's like you get 5 minutes of rest, and then it's like, all right, I'm on again. You know, I feel like it's like it's the news or something. You know?
Right. So we'll wrap this up pretty quickly. So guests, how do you find them? Do they need to fight? Do they need to fight? See, I'm already tired. Do they need to fit a certain criteria with your guests? And how do you find them, and do they need to fit certain criteria?
Yeah, so how I find them, I have many different ways to find them.
And that is the end of the clip, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Ambiguous Podcast Solution with the BopCast. If you want to be a guest on this podcast and you have your own podcast, shoot me an email. Links in the description down below. The email is will@apspodcast.com. Tell me why you want to be a guest on the show, and you make me go, ooh, congratulations, you made the cut. We'll have you on. All of our partnership information can be found at ambiguouspodcastsolutions.com. And yeah, click around the boxes, you know, around here, there, and everywhere. More content from us. Thank you all for your support, and we'll see you next time.